Hi, and welcome to the Paranormal Diva. I'm Tracy Thomas Shepard. Today was supposed to be my very first episode speaking with my husband Scott and his sister Janelle about an experience they had with what could only be labeled as the Grim Reaper. Two people, shared experience, very interesting story, but we're going to postpone that till next time. And today I've decided to make the first episode about ghost shows, psychics, some of the people that I like and respect, some of the people I think aren't doing this particular field any favors. It's very important to me as someone who does readings that the tomfoolery that is so predictable and obvious is not present in what I do. I hate it when people do what's essentially a cold read. And as a reader, it's pretty easy to fall into your clues. You inadvertently help us get information. And there have been times where I'm doing a reading and I'm thrown off my game. By that I mean like real information is coming from where I don't know and never will. I'm not going to try to explain that, but I'm picking up on something that I feel is legit. And then your reaction to it as the querent, the person who I'm reading for, leads me in a different direction because you cannot help but take those physical clues. So now when I do my readings, I prefer to do them. I used to do them in person. I've done them online. I prefer to do them in the dark, so to speak, over the phone so that I cannot see your reaction. And I ask that you don't vocalize. So, if I say something to the effect of, I see that your mother was a Native American and grew up blah, 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 and had 3 siblings, which is relatively specific, right? But and that's just an example. I'm not telling you, any of you, that that's your situation. I'm just saying, if you go, oh, I know. So when I do my readings with my business, Queen of Cups, I want to go as blind as possible. I will do in-person readings. If I do, I would prefer to turn my back. There are so many people out there that unknowingly give you everything you need to do their reading and to succeed at it. So let's talk about these, psychics. I just did the air quotation marks. I know I hate that. Let's talk about some of them. Some of them, it's almost like, and I've probably used this example before, a Hallmark movie. It's very scripted, and every one of them is the same, just with different actors. A couple of the people that I feel really weren't legit. This is terrible. I'm calling her out. Sylvia Browne. I've watched her over the years, and rest in peace. But she just didn't click in my brain as being somebody who was in it for the greater good. Anybody who makes a fortune doing it is suspect to me. I think sometimes you have to be humble about all that. But she actually caused harm, and that's something that really bothers me. If you're from the area, and I'm assuming a lot of my viewers are regional, and if not, hello and welcome. But around these parts, there was a story, and it did go national. So you may know the Cleveland Three girls kidnapped, held for 10 years, and Sylvia Browne stepped in to do a reading for Amanda Berry's mother. And in that reading, she told her that her daughter was dead and to stop looking, that she was dead, and went into that whole, scenario of what she was picking up on. Well, Amanda Berry's mother died, and Amanda was found alive. And that's why I have this disclaimer when you do a reading with me. I don't talk about, we just don't go there. I don't talk about health. If you have an issue with your body and you're worried about your health, you need a doctor. You don't need cards on the table. So, that really bothered me. And I just think that's such a sad story. But Sylvia Browne, I think maybe at some point, and this is how I feel about most of these psychic readers who are in the spotlight, had a gift and she wanted to do something with it and took it too far. Didn't find her legitimate. I still don't. And then I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this one, I'm sure. But if you want to send me hate mail, it's paranormaldiva@gmail. What is it? Paranormaldiva712@gmail.com. So feel free, I'll read it. The Long Island Medium. I was all sucked into that, and I watched the show, and I was blown away by her. I should have done my research on her name, Teresa Caputo, I think. Yeah, that's right. Again, I believe she has something. I think she has a gift. I think she is in touch with something. I think she took it too far. It became kind of like a trope, the same formula. She goes in, she reads people, blows their minds, tells them things that she couldn't have known, does cold reads or not cold reads, but spontaneous readings in grocery stores or whatever. But I saw her live, and she did her thing where she hones in on somebody in the audience and gives them a message from a deceased loved one. And it didn't really hit the nail on the head for anybody. Live was not the same experience. And it makes me wonder, is it all scripted and fake? And I don't know. I like her shtick a little bit, but again, millions of dollars, that shouldn't be the motivation. John Edwards. I know my sister, who is also very into all of this stuff with me, loves John Edwards. I think it's more of the same. I don't know. I've not had an experience with him personally. I just think you have to be really careful what you believe in, because these people can really impact your life. When I do my readings, I do not tell anybody to do anything. Oh, you need to do this. I offer suggestions based on random thoughts that I get in my head. And so let's talk about what it means to be intuitive, or to be someone who gets information from a source that we aren't exactly sure of its origin. My thing is, I go into a reading and I pick up on things randomly all day. It's so a part of what I do and who I am now. I kind of just ignore most of it. But as I head into a reading, first of all, I light a candle. I don't know why. There's no reason for it. It's my little ritual. And I say a prayer of protection. I pray to God. It's like, hey, you gave me this thing that I can do. Send in guides and angels, protect us, and help me give good information. And then I use my cards. I'm not even sure I need the cards, but there's something about having that, I guess I would call it a talisman, that opens up whatever I need to pick up on. And so I tell people whom normally I cannot see or have never met, I do know a name, and sometimes I'll look at their face, like there'll be a picture, and a picture helps me a lot, but I don't go on their social media. I believe in karma. I would never do that because it's kind of cutting your own throat if you cheat, right? But I have, after all these years, I now know what is information I'm getting from my own imagination, and what is this spontaneous thing that I'm feeling the need to say. There's an urge. It's a lot like when I write my music. As I may have mentioned, I'm a career musician, songwriter. I will kind of feel it coming. And it's like, okay, I've got to sit down with this because I'm getting something. And I'll sit down and I'll craft a song. And it's nothing that can be forced. I do it when I get that feeling or inspiration. The muse comes in. But it's the same with readings. I'll get a feeling that I need to say something, and it's quite different from just a thought in my head. And I've learned how to do that. And so I say it. And I feel that the cards do give me information and hints, but it's all very unregulated. There's no system really to what I do. It's all in the moment and spontaneous. And I'm not saying that, oh, I'm legit and others aren't. That don't want to come across that way. What I'm saying is my take on this, as somebody who's done it, I'm 64. I mean, since birth. And I really did start reading it at around the age of 12. But as somebody who's done it, I kind of think I can see through somebody who has learned how to do a thing, and so they do it. Like anybody can learn to read tarot. There's a booklet. The instructions are right there. You buy it, you learn it. You do readings. That's fun. Yay. Parlor tricks. And then there's people who really bring something to it that is coming from a different place. It's not so much just a learned trick or game or hobby, whatever. It's a thing that comes from someplace else in you, guided by something that comes from outside of you. And so I think I can recognize now, after all these years, what is real and what isn't. So let's talk about that. Chip Coffey. Chip Coffey is a psychic. I don't really know the term he uses to define himself. Intuitive, psychic, medium. And there is a difference between readers and mediums. Mediums feel they really are in contact with people who have crossed, with energy that no longer has a physical body. And I don't ever claim to be a medium. I've had moments where spirits come through, many of them. It's not necessarily my title. But I believe Chip Coffey, he's a guest on a show that I love, one of the few ghost shows that I think is really legit and doing the good work, Kindred Spirits. I think that's where I first saw him. I might have seen him actually earlier on Paranormal State, which turned out to be a lot of hocus pocus, but he wasn't. At least I think that's the rumor. I should research that. I think he's the real deal. I watch him go through these places that he reads, and I see him read very remotely, as other people walk through locations and he gives them what he's feeling. His process, as I watch him, is really a lot like how my information comes in, and so I can relate to him, and I see him do it, and I think he's the real deal. So let's kind of talk about, or let's not kind of talk about, let's actually talk about ghost shows. Another trope. I mean, they're all the same, right? The very first one I ever saw that got me really into the study of ghosts and spirits, because I really wasn't that into it before Ghost Hunters. And it was fascinating. And they kind of started this whole thing. I felt they were honest. I felt they were really breaking new ground in the paranormal research field. I still do. I feel that if you want to start with a ghost show, that would be the one, and go all the way back to the start. A lot of it is kind of dead space. They don't always get things, but that's what makes it seem more believable to me. I know there are ghost shows where something's happening every minute. That is not the reality of it, at least it hasn't been in my research, it's mostly waiting and waiting and waiting and hoping you get a second of something that you can't explain. So legit on the Ghost Hunters, I really like that show. Now let's talk about the Ghost Adventures. Okay, I gotta get comfortable for this one. I argue with people about this so much. Zach Bagans, Ghost Adventures. He comes across as a bro, and I've mentioned this to people. I might have mentioned it in my introduction. He comes from that place of, hey, dude, and dude, that's fine. I have a son who does that. I just think he is real, and I think what he does comes from the heart. I feel like the show is a little over the top, kitschy in a way, and they overreact to a lot of things. And after all these seasons, and I think there's 20 something, they're still terrified. I'm not sure they would be. So there's things they do to make it a show and to make it entertaining. But I think he personally not only is probably very intuitive, he flirts with the dark, but dark and light go together to make a well-balanced paranormal researcher. I do think he brings something to the table that is valuable. And a lot of people are like, that show's so fake. Those guys are so over the top. Yeah. My take on it is he comes from a good place and has a gift and a lot of knowledge. And so I do watch it. My favorite is Kindred Spirits. They seem to really be honest and excited when they get things, and not in any way fake. I love that show. I actually went to Gettysburg after watching an episode they filmed in Gettysburg. I went there by myself, and because I really wanted to see what that was all about after watching it. And I walked that walk. I stayed in a haunted B&B by myself, and I had a couple experiences, and they weren't earth-shattering. They weren't necessarily anything I could explain rationally. And so I think when it comes to all of this, you have to have an open mind, but not too open, because it's pretty easy to get caught in the trap of believing everything and taking things at face value that should be researched. When I went to Gettysburg, after watching that episode of Kindred Spirits, I didn't know I was going to be staying alone. I thought there would be other people in the bed and breakfast, but apparently it was just me. And I was scared, and it was an odd night. I did literally feel something sit on my bed, and it woke me up. And I never went back to sleep. That was a moment. But when I got there, I parked, I got out of my car. I parked close to a place called, I think it was the Farnsworth, and it's notoriously haunted. I had dinner there by myself. Didn't feel anything or see anything. But when I got there, I got out of my car, and I'm walking between two buildings to go to my B&B, and I felt something like a breathy feeling, like someone, a human being, whispered in my ear. And it said, Tracy. My name, Tracy. And so, of course, I turn and I look, and I'm like, okay, I know that did not come from a human body. It's just, okay, I just parked. And, okay, that was weird. I just kept walking. And then before I got out of the alley, I heard even louder, same sensation in my ear, bitch. And then I was spooked. I stopped, I turned around, and I looked, knowing nobody was there, but I guess that's what we do. It was so unbelievable in the moment. I just had to make sure that it wasn't somebody. It felt like a threat. So I do my whole Gettysburg thing. Those were the three things that happened. That's the total of my experience. I get home, I do a little research and find out that the man who actually the Farnsworth was named after, I believe, hated women, and he was mean. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. So Kindred Spirits, thumbs up. Ghost Adventures, over the top, but thumbs up. Ghost Hunters, thumbs up. Let's talk about the Dead Files. I know she has a gift. Amy Allen. It's kind of freakishly intense, her thing. I believe her. But the show is so over the top dark. And I think it perpetuates this idea that if you aren't in a body, you're evil or you're a demon. I don't believe that for a minute. I think most of it is very benevolent. Everything in that show is, oh, it's a demon. He wants to kill you. And it creeps me out. It focuses way too hard on the negative. And I believe that that's for entertainment purposes. It's their shtick. The premise is fabulous between, the police officer, retired sergeant, the psychic. They don't meet, but they visit the places separately, and then they come back and they talk about it, compare notes, it syncs up. Fascinating. But I think anybody who tells people there's spirits of tortured children who have died still on the earth, wow, I don't even want to believe that that's the reality of it. I don't believe that. But when you're telling people that, I think about the parents who are out there whose children have died, and they're probably thinking, oh my God, is my child tortured and walking the earth as a demon child? Or is my loved one now an evil entity and still walking the earth? I don't know. That to me is damaging. I believe in reincarnation. Doesn't mean you need to. Doesn't make it a fixed truth in the universe. I think it's way more likely that our energy leaves our body and goes somewhere else into a body to do it again, or maybe there's a pause. Maybe you go to some place and you sit for a while before you commit to that. But I really do not believe that just because you've left your body, maybe it was a horrible death, tragic death, sudden death, suicide. But I still don't think that means whatever God is in the universe tortures you to walk the earth in torment. I think that messes with people's heads. And for that reason, thumbs down on the Dead Files. I don't think they're doing the good work out there. I think if you do run across a spirit in your life, many of you have, and I really want to hear about it, paranormaldiva712@gmail.com. Please tell me about it. But I like to focus on the positive. When I do my readings or my research, I like it to be a little bit lighter. Everything that has to do with the other side, the paranormal, isn't dark. And nobody's paying attention to that. A lot of these spirits, maybe they do come through somehow from somewhere. I'm not going to spend my life trying to figure it out. I accept it, but I don't think they're threatening or fearful probably 80% of the time. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you think. You can yell at me about the Long Island Medium comment. I can take it and we'll discuss it. So a little information from my home office, and I hope to hear from you. Next episode, we will talk with Scott Shepard and Janelle Arnold, who had a shared experience with the Grim Reaper. So for now, I'm Tracy, the Paranormal Diva, and I hope you'll join us next time.